Om Tapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine Tapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine Avatar Varishtaya Ramakrishna Yate Namah Asato ma sadgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God Incarnate, who came to establish religion universal. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Today's topic I have chosen, turning point in life. God is very gracious. He shows His grace in different ways. Sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly. His ways are mysterious. But then, the whole creation belongs to Him, and He is the father and mother of the whole universe. Jagan Mata, Jagat Pita. Well-known statement. So as an ideal father and ideal mother, the Divine Lord takes care of every individual being, whatever may be his or her status, whether a person is a devotee or not. But as an ideal father, as an ideal mother, the Divine Lord discharges His responsibilities and sees that His children come up well. So, He provides lot of opportunities and gives warnings to make corrections in our life. That is the way how God does it. The reason is He gives lot of freedom to individuals. And everyone has to struggle, has to make efforts, has to become strong. Just as a child tries to get up and stand and tries to walk, so many times the child stumbles, it falls down, it cries. But then the mother helps the child little bit. Get up, it's possible, stand up, like that. And finally the child learns to stand in his own way. And then of course he tries to walk, and then he gains strength and he gains confidence, and then he walks joyously. Exactly same way our life also. We stumble upon, we make lot of mistakes, we commit lots of unpleasant actions. We suffer as a consequence. Still, we keep on struggling. So, through struggle, we become all right. And God helps those who struggle. That means struggling is a positive quality. You should not lose heart. You should not get into a state of desperation, because desperation makes a person weak, helpless, unable to do anything, becomes highly miserable and suffers a lot. So, struggling has got a very important role in human life. But in struggling also, one has to discriminate in what way he should struggle. Herein comes God's help and God's grace. But everyone gets these turning points. If a person is watchful and careful and observes the things positively, surely there are points of importance where he should correct himself and go forward in life. That means why people struggle, why people suffer in spite of God being so gracious and kind. It's because we struggle for wrong things. We struggle for worldly type of life. We struggle for worldly pleasures. We struggle for things impermanent. No. Through such struggles, instead of getting happiness, you get kicks and sufferings. You get pain and sorrow. So through that, you are made to learn, no, probably I am going in a wrong way. I am struggling not for the right thing. Then he should open up his wisdom. He should turn really towards the divine. When a person turns himself towards the divine, that means he is struggling to enter into spiritual life. And that is the way to get into real peace and joy in life. In fact, human life itself is an opportunity given by the Divine Lord so that we can struggle through this human life to unfold our spiritual dimension and get into the abode of the Divine Lord. So, that is the introduction which I am talking to you just now about the topic turning point in life. There are many, many instances, life stories of saints and sages, how this point is vividly seen. To begin with, I shall dwell upon the famous Kathopanishad. Probably all of you are well aware of this Upanishad. Upanishads are our divine treasures. The most sublime truth has been given to us in the Upanishads. Anybody can study, apply it in life, get illumination. It is 100% universal. So, it's very interesting life story how a boy, a teenager, turned his life from the worldly life to spiritual life. So what made him to turn away? That's a very interesting point. There will be so many reasons. Sometimes people turn on account of sufferings. Sometimes people turn because of some unpleasant things happening in life. There are so many reasons, not one or two. Millions of reasons are there. But there are people, in spite of those millions of reasons, they won't turn towards God. Rather, they go in the opposite direction. Boasting and indulging in all sorts of unpleasant things. So, here the story is given very vividly. In fact, all the individuals who are here sitting in this chapel, each one is a story. Each one, volumes can be written. So, the whole universe is full of stories, infinite stories, and everything goes to infinite. Because God's nature is infinite. Anything you take, it goes to infinite. Well, it's nice to have so many varieties and so many dramas in life for us to draw lessons and learn. There was a sage, his name was Vajasravas. He performed a very elaborate sacrifice. In those days they used to perform yajnas. For anything and everything they would do yajnas. They want a child, go and do yajna. They want to conquer a country, go and do yajna. Anything, any desire to fulfill, they will do yajna. In fact, Dashrath, he did Putra Kamishti Yajna, Yaga, to get sons Rama, Lakshmana, Bharat, Shatrugna. So those days were like that. Anyway, as a part of the completion of the sacrifice, he was giving gifts to the guests assembled. That's a part of the ceremony. One must give gifts. But what type of gifts he was making? That was horrible. So, what he was doing was, Vajasravas was giving away toothless old cattle and cows past the age of bearing. They are useless. Such cows he was giving as gifts to the guests assembled in the ceremony. He had a very bright son. His name was Nachiketas. He was very bright, taintless, young boy, who had Upanayana Samskaram, who was doing Gayatri 3 times correctly at punctual time, Pratha Sandhya, Madhyanika and Sayam Sandhya. So naturally he was very bright. His intellect was very sharp. All the senses were very active, and he was very alert. And he saw father doing this gift of useless cows to the guests. The boy got disgusted. What type of sacrifice my father is doing? So he could not bear that. So he went to the father and asked, Father, to whom are you going to give me? Father did not give any attention to him. He's a boy, simply is telling something. But Nachiketas repeatedly asked the question again and again. To whom are you going to give me? Then Vajaswas became really angry. When you become angry, you don't know what you do. So, inadvertently, he said, I shall give it to Yama. Yama means god of death. He told in a very angry mood. He said like that. But you must know the occasion. The occasion was, he was doing yajna. That means he had taken sankalpa. It was a very auspicious occasion. So nothing should be done in a wrong way. So when anything is said, it must be done. And so because the father has said that you give him to god of death, so it should be followed up. Just as Dashrath, he gave a promise to Kaikeyi that he will grant the boons on one occasion. And Kaikeyi wanted Rama to be banished to forest for 14 years. And Dashrath had to comply with. So same situation here. So Nachiketas simply kept silent. He took it as an order from the father that he should go to Yama. So this incident became the turning point in the life of Nachiketas. If the father had not told that way, he would not have gone to Yama, and we would not have got this Kathopanishad. This Kathopanishad is a famous Upanishad, one of the major 10 Upanishads. And this Upanishad was taught by Yama himself to Nachiketas. And Swami Vivekananda repeatedly says in his complete works, please read Kathopanishad. It is there that famous statement comes, Uttishtata Jagrata Prapya Varan Nibodhata. Rise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. That verse is taken from Kathopanishad. So in the same Upanishad, another statement comes. One must be really very strong. One must be free from all weaknesses. One must struggle to get out of these weaknesses. Nayamatma balahinena labhyaha. Atman cannot be realized by weaklings. Very straightforward it tells the message. You need to be strong. There is no point in crying or weeping. Become strong. Go to gymnastics. Develop your muscles. Take good food. Feel strong. So follow what is to be done. That's the way. So So, finally, Nachiketas decided to go to the abode of Yama. Because of his power of celibacy, he could go in his mortal frame to the abode of Yama. So, he says, many have gone before me, and many yet must go after me. I go not alone to death, and what can Yama do to me? Consider what has happened before this, and consider what is going to happen in the future. Countless are the mortals that have died before this and will die hereafter. The life of mortals indeed is like that of a corn that grows and ripens and is reaped, and like the grains that fall that spring again into life. How nicely Nachiketas makes observations. It's very clear. So, without any fear, pure and simple-hearted, young and shining, celibate Nachiketas went to the abode of Yama to see him, because he has been gifted by his father. But it so happened Yama was not there. So he had to wait there for 3 days. Finally Yama came, and Yama felt very unhappy because he was not there to receive Nachiketas, because anybody coming is considered as a guest. So he has come himself to the abode of Yama, and that means he should receive him properly, which he did not do. So, to make up for the offense, Yama offered Nachiketas to ask for 3 boons in return. Whatever boons he may ask. And then, he is God, having all powers, and not an ordinary God. God who had realized Brahman is a Brahmagyani. Yama is a Brahmagyani. So he offered Nachiketas many gifts, length of days and all kinds of earthly possessions that one could desire, and Swarga, heaven, to enjoy. But Nachiketas was quite intelligent enough. He saw the people, how every day people are dying. So he didn't want all these gifts which Yama offered him. He chose for the boon, that is, he wanted Yama to teach him the nature of the soul. He wanted to have Atma Jnana. Where does this soul go after death? What's his ultimate destiny? And so on. All connected with self. So, Nachiketas said very emphatically, there is no boon that I desire other than this knowledge. I want Gyan. There can be no better instructor than you for imparting this knowledge. What use is length of days, and what joy can possessions give? Or song or dance or houses and chariots give to us. So long as you are there as an ever-present termination to it all, everything has got its end. So Yama pleaded with Nachiketas. The nature of this soul is so subtle, it is not possible to comprehend it satisfactorily. Choose some other boon. Don't insist. Please ask some other boon. Because in this knowledge of the self, even the gods have got doubts. But Nachiketas was very firm in his request. He said, even if the gods had doubts in this matter, and you say that it is not easily comprehended, who then could expound it as you can? And what other boon can equal this? None indeed. I want the knowledge of the self. Nothing else. Yama again and again tests him. See, that is the way. Unless the student is properly qualified, the teacher would not impart knowledge. And Yama is putting Nachiketas in all sorts of tests, very tempting tests. Again, Yama tells him, well, don't ask for Atmajnana. Ask for children, sons, grandsons, who can live for hundreds of years. Ask for material wealth, large property, and live as long as you want to. I will give the span of life also. Even if you want to live 1,000 years, I am prepared to grant. Enjoy the life. Choose any boon that you can conceive equal to this, with wealth and long life. I will make you the enjoyer of every desire. Ask freely for every rare enjoyment in the world of mortals. Here are nymphs in chariots playing on lutes, such as men have never seen. These maidens will serve you at my command, but do not ask me about Atmajnana. Nachiketas was unmoved because of his power of pure life. He had developed insight, intellectual insight. He could grasp most subtle things very clearly. So he immediately said to Yama, O Lord, all these things you are offering to me, are they permanent? They are all ephemeral pleasures. What do? They consume the powers of the mortal's senses. That's all they do. They destroy our power, they destroy our vigor, they destroy our energy, they destroy everything in us. Even if they lasted all life, they are of little worth. So, I don't need all these things, please. Keep these ephemeral things for yourself. I don't care for them. I don't want these maidens or these chariots, this long life, this all types of pleasures you are offering. I don't want any of them. No, really no. I want Atma Jnana. Please give me the spiritual knowledge. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Adhyatma Vidya Vidyanam, I am the spiritual knowledge of all the knowledge you find in the world. And that is the real knowledge we should aspire for. And here Nachiketa is asking for that knowledge. So how that turning point, when the father offered him to Yama, that was the major turning point in the life of Nachiketas. He became totally spiritual from that point onwards. He never thought of enjoying world anymore. So, again and again Nachiketas making his point very clear to Yama about his strong determination and will to learn, to practice spirituality, to realize the truth. So, he is requesting Yama to be his guru. And so he says, how can man get satisfied with wealth? Can we hold wealth when we see you? All wealth disappears on death. We live but as long as you command it to be. That boon alone, therefore, is worthy of being desired, that I craved of you. I want only self-knowledge, nothing else. Nothing else. So, finally, Yama was firmly convinced that Nachiketas was a special type. Special type. His whole system is thoroughly pure to receive the spiritual knowledge. So Yama says, after this testing, he said, Nachiketas, you have displayed courage and resolve. There can be no better seeker than such a one, even as you stated that there can be no better instructor than myself. Then he begins to teach Nachiketas the glory of Atman, the nature of Atman, and the way to realize the truth. It's a nice Upanishad. So Nachiketas finally became illumined because of these teachings he received from Yama himself. And his whole mind was hankering after the spiritual knowledge. So finally he got the result. Another point is, as I said, that everyone gets the opportunity to turn inward. In the Kathopanishad, two phrases are there very important for us to think deeply, and they are prayas and shreyas. Shreyas means that which is good. Prayas means that which is pleasant. Both these, having different purposes, they bind a person. Of these two, it is well for him who takes hold of the good. He who chooses the pleasant misses his end. So good and pleasant both appear to everyone. So choosing is very important. What you choose, that determines your life. The good and the pleasant approach a person. The wise one considers and distinguishes the two. Wisely does he prefer the good to the pleasant, but a fool chooses the pleasant for its worldly good. Pleasures that are sense-bound and prone to mutation come under the category of preyas, that is pleasant. The majority of mankind are seekers of pleasant. But there are a rare few who aspire for the transcendental scriptures, the transcendental experience. Scriptures describe this transcendental experience as the good. The senses are created with outward tendencies like a bar door with hinges that allow it to swing open outward only. All our senses are opening up outward. The self-existent pierces the senses outward, and so one looks outward and not within oneself. Some wise man, however, seeking immortality and turning his eyes inward, sees the inner self. The ignorant pursue outward pleasures. They walk into the widespread net of death. The wise, however, recognizing eternal life, don't seek the constant among inconstant things. All virtues, strength, self-denial and sublimity are born of good. Yoga and spiritual enlightenment are all contained in this Shreyas. A life of triumph and conquest is available to all who tread the path of Shreyas. That is choosing the good. This is the core of the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita also. Each of the subsequent chapters in this book is an elaboration of this theme from a particular angle. The strong and the virile alone are fit for a life of great consequence. Achievements both here and hereafter are born of competence and manly action. Strength nurtures life, weakness wears it away. Vitality drives away disease, debility aggravates it. Virtue and righteousness are the outcome of strength. Vice and wickedness have their origin in weakness. Cowardice creates crookedness. It is the feeble that resort to foul play. Action born in manliness leads to freedom, and its opposite to bondage. Strength and Shreyas are identical. This is the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. The first chapter of the Gita reveals that Arjuna was still under the sway of pleasant prayers, things that bring prosperity, pleasure, power and glory to life. Souls incarnate many times in order to acquire and enjoy these pleasures. This enjoyment has a place in the cosmic plan. Sooner or later comes a turning point in life when the individual self sees the vanity and emptiness of prayers and hankers after something permanent. The slow, steady and imperceptible mental evolution that Arjuna underwent, the transitory nature of the earthly pleasures that he enjoyed, the conviction that came to him of the vanity of earthly splendor, all these contributed to Arjuna's changeover from prayers to Shreyas. That is the turning point Arjuna got on account of the teachings he got it from Lord Krishna. The Gita teaches one to equip oneself for the battle of life. Without self-preparation, the battles of life cannot be waged successfully. Each science has its twin aspects, theory and practice. Intellectual grasp of a subject is theory. Its application is practice. Brahma Vidya, self-knowledge, is what touches and transforms life. It is intensely practical. What applied to life When it is applied to life, it is called Yoga Shastra. This is one of the other names by which Bhagavad Gita is known. All the 18 chapters of the Gita are designated, each as a type of yoga. The function of the yoga is to train the body and the mind. If a wage earner applies the principles of the Gita to his life, he will become a better wage earner. A farmer will equip himself better if he only translates the Gita principles into action. A merchant is bound to thrive in his business by putting these tenets into practice. An officer will execute his duty more efficiently when he becomes a yogi. Man becomes well equipped for life by taking to yoga. An efficient man is otherwise called a yogi. All the 18 yogas contained in the 18 chapters of the Gita may be reduced to 4. Karma Yoga, Yoga of Action, Bhakti Yoga, Yoga of Devotion, Raja Yoga, Yoga of Meditation, and Jnana Yoga, Yoga of Knowledge. While playing the part of the charioteer, Sri Krishna is controlling the reins of the 4 white horses yoked to the chariot. They are like the 4 yogas yoked to the human frame. The human body is the chariot. Arjun, the individual embodied soul, is inside the chariot. This body chariot is driven by the Supreme Lord. The 4 horses of this body chariot, action, emotions, will and reason, should work in perfect harmony. In order to succeed in life, one must advance along all 4 lines in a balanced and integrated manner. Integral yoga presents a blend of the 4 major yogas of the Gita corresponding to the 4 aspects of the human personality. The harmony can be achieved by integrating the 4 major yogas. Karma Yoga unfolds one's hidden potentials while preparing his psychological being to face and confront life's day-to-day activities. Bhakti Yoga, Yoga of Devotion, cultures the feelings and brings about emotional integration in the personality. Raja Yoga, the Yoga of Meditation, allows one to develop a strong will and a controlled mind. And Jnana Yoga, the Yoga of Wisdom, trains and renders the intellect sharp and settled. So, it is very important to know the theory properly, and equally important is to apply the theory into practice. There is another famous life story who had a turning point in life. A famous saint, very famous saint of Karnataka. His name Purandaradasa. He has written thousands of verses. In fact, we sing also some of his songs, full of spiritual content. And his story is a very moving story. His period was 1484, before death of BD, that is before death of Christ. 1484 to 1564, his lifespan. His name was Srinivas Nayaka before he became Purandaradasa. He was a very famous bhakti poet, a great musician, and he has composed 475,000 devotional songs. 475,000. He also standardized Carnatic music for teaching and pioneered a system of notation still used today. The first raga, musical scale, is believed to be the Hindustani Bhairava, equivalent to the Carnatic Maya Malava Gaula, which Purandadas instituted as a scale that singers begin their study with. This raga is said to have emanated from Lord Shiva himself. Purandaradasa, he lived in Purandaragad, a small town in present-day Maharashtra in India. But at that point of time, the town belonged to the Vijayanagara dynasty, the famous period. So Purandarasa's earlier name was Srinivasa Nayak. He was engaged in the family business, dealing in precious stones. He was a diamond merchant. He was very rich, and he became to be known as Navakoti Narayana. And he was very miser by nature. He cared for nothing except money. That was his position. Very miserly and very rich. And the Divine Lord decided that it was time for Srinivas Nayaka to give up his love of money and to take his rightful role among saints. Anyway, the Lord began to show His grace upon this family. And it is because of this Srinivas Nayak's wife, very devoted to Lord Vishnu. So, Srinivas Nayak's wife is responsible for the turning point of Srinivas Nayak in his life. A miserly person became a saint because of this turning point. And because the wife was totally devoted to Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu now began to play with this miserly person. So he came in the guise of a Brahmin. He went to his shop and asked for some help to give some money, because he had to perform thread ceremony, Upanayana Samskaram, for his son. But, he was very miserly. He did not pay any attention to this Brahmin standing at the door and asking for money. He did not even care to look at him. But then, this Brahmin used to come again and again. Many times he came. How long? That is amazing. 6 months. 6 months passed by in this fashion. Every alternate day he would come and ask for money. Please give, please give. I want to perform Upanayana Samskar for my son. I am very poor, etc., etc. So finally, this Nayaka thought that he should teach this Brahmin a lesson to get rid of this person once for all. So what he did was, he had collected worn out coins which are more or less worthless. So he poured this in front of the Brahmin, and afterwards he is telling him to take one out of these worn out coins and never come back again. The Brahmin went away seemingly crestfallen. Nayak had a wife. Her name was Saraswati. She was of very good nature, very kind-hearted, tried to make amends for her husband's miserliness. So Lord Vishnu, who came in the guise of a Brahmin, after meeting Nayak several times, now he came to Nayak's wife, and then he told his story and how her husband did not give him anything, and really he needed money for doing Upanayana Samskaram. So will you please help me? Saraswati was appalled by her husband's behavior. She wanted to help the poor Brahmin. She really wanted to help, but felt helpless, since she could not give anything without her husband's permission. So she explained, she tried to explain her helplessness to this Brahmin. Then the Brahmin was quite intelligent. He asked if she had something given by her parents, which presumably she could give without asking for her husband's permission. Her parents are given to her, so she has full freedom to do whatever she wants. When this suggestion was given, she immediately agreed and gave him the diamond nose stud that her parents had given her. So what this Brahmin did was, he took this diamond ornament, went straight to Nayak's shop, and as soon as Nayak saw this Brahmin coming again, he was very angry, because he had told him not to come back again. Then the Brahmin clarified that he was there not to beg, but to pledge an ornament and take a loan. I am just pledging. Give me a loan. Nayak was skeptical and asked the Brahmin to show him the ornament. When he saw the ornament, Nayak was perplexed, because he immediately recognized it as the one belonging to his wife. So, when questioned about the ornament's antecedents, the Brahmin told him that it was a gift from a benefactor. Well, asking the Brahmin to come back the next day, Nayak safely locked away the ornament in a box, and straight away he went back home. When he saw his wife without her ornament, he questioned her about it. She tried to stall him with non-committal answers, but he insisted on seeing it immediately. He was angry because he thought she had given away a valuable ornament to a beggarly Brahmin. Saraswati felt the ground giving away under her feet. She knew that her husband would punish her if she told him the truth. Unable to think of an alternative, she decided to commit suicide. She could not face the husband. So what she did was, she poured poison into a cup and lifted it to her lips in order to drink. Just as she was about to drink the poison, she heard a metallic sound. Lo, behold, wonder of wonders, the ornament was right there in the cup. She could not believe her eyes. Her heart filled with gratitude. She prostrated before the idol of Krishna, whom she was worshipping all through, and took the ornament to her husband. See, this is my ornament. You wanted to see it? This is the ornament. Nayak was astounded as it was the very same ornament that he had safely locked away in his shop. So he quickly excused himself and ran back to the shop to check the box in which he had safely locked away the ornament. When he opened the locker, he found it was empty. He was now completely and totally dumbfounded. How this could happen? So this is a great turning point in his life. He went back to his house and pressed his wife to tell him the truth. She told him everything that had transpired. This put his mind into turmoil. After deep thought, he came to the conclusion that the Brahmin was none other than God himself. He recalled all the incidents that had transpired in the previous 6 months. He was disgusted with himself and his miserliness. He felt that his wife had conducted herself far more decently and generously than himself. Since it was his love of money that had made him ill-treat the Lord, he then and there decided to give away all his wealth. So he distributed the whole thing to the people. The people were all surprised how this thing could happen. From that day onwards, Nayaka became a devotee of Lord Hari. So Navakoti Narayana became a Narayana Bhakta. The hands which sported gold and diamond rings now played the tambura. The neck which used to be resplendent with golden chains now housed the Tulsi Mala. The man who had turned away countless people away now himself went around collecting alms and living the life of a mendicant. The Nayaka, who would have lived and died an inconsequential life, became Purandaradasa, loved and revered even centuries after his death. Just as the philosopher's stone turns everything it touches to gold, the Lord took a wretched miser and made him into the doyen of all Haridasas. Such was the divine sport of the Lord. Among the devotees of Hari, Purandaradasa is the greatest. His works have earned the name Purandaropanishad. So, after Nayaka became saint, whole day, morning and night, he was singing, composing songs on Divine Lord and teaching philosophy to the common folk through simple poems, poetry, but full of spiritual content. And Purandaradasa has revolutionized, and his life became blessed. So, how this wretched miserliness was taken out, and he turned himself to become a saint. So everyone gets this opportunity this way. But everyone gets turning point in a specific way. Nobody knows in what way the turning point comes. And it is a fact, it is very difficult rather to turn from the materialistic way of life into spiritual ways. But life will teach you that definitely we should have turned away from this worldly type of life long time back. Well, God gives so many chances. This human life is one more chance for us to turn our life towards God. So let us make our life blessed by taking spiritual ideas and practicing them in our life. Thank you very much. Om Sahana Vavato Sahanau Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavagai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. May the Lord protect us. May He nourish us. May our knowledge be fruitful and enlightened. May we not hate each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.